Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coach-your-PO. All lowercase, all one word, that's bit.ly/coach-your-PO. And now, on to the show, the Product Owner Show. Hello everybody, welcome to our Friday and Product Owner episode. And this week we have with us Stacey Taurah. Hey Stacey, welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. TGIF, as they say, also for all of you out there who are just about to enjoy your weekend. And why not go into the weekend with some pieces of reflection regarding the product owner role? This is what we do always here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. So, Stacey, let's dive into it. We'll talk about a great product owner later on, but to get us started, share with us what might have been potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
I think it would have to be the behavior that sits around dictation.
So explain that to us, how that plays out.
Yeah, not a problem. So for me as a product owner, they're a person who their knowledge sits within product ownership. They own the product, they understand the vision, they understand the strategy, they understand what the user needs. Maybe it's based on data. Sometimes in some industries it's not perfect, there isn't any data, so it does have to be based on value versus effort, which can be found in the industry looking at other people's sites if it's a site you're developing. So yeah, to me that's a product owner's role. It doesn't mean that they can't waver, just that's the accountability of a product owner. And where I've seen an anti-pattern is that where we are looking at features and stories and breaking them down, and the product owner is dictating what the technical direction should be and breaking down in such a way that isn't complementary to the tech stack. And then they're wondering why later on when we're delivering that there's so many stories in flights, or we've got dependencies and there's blockers everywhere, because the product owner didn't pay attention to the architecture and the technical experts, the developers, the testers. They were very segmented in their role, almost hierarchical. So a product owner is an equal member. For me, it's an equal member of a team, whether you are a junior tester, whether you are a senior developer, whether you're a tech lead. Everybody is equal and everybody is there to succeed or learn together, as we mentioned before about learning and failure. But where a product owner dictates, this is our next story, and they've not taken into consideration the technical implications or the architecture of the site, and then wonders why it won't work.
And I would add to that sometimes the team themselves are the ones enabling that anti-pattern by being too, following too much the ideas of the product owner and not questioning it. Maybe because, at some point they might just not be thinking about how it works. But even then, later on, when they're finally picking up the story and they see, okay, this is a bad idea, you have to speak up, right? And we have to help the teams speak up and learn how to do it. I remember one product owner I was working with that would go to the level of which bytes would be in which part of the network packet that teams had to create, because they were doing some network protocols. And I was like, okay, but this is not what the product owner is all about. And if the product owner does this, then the team will say, well, the product owner designed it, we just did what they wanted. And now we've removed the ownership and the accountability from the team. It's as if they are just hands on keyboards.
Yeah, definitely. You hear this term resources. I hate that. I know there's another word that I don't like in this industry. But yeah, I mean, in that situation, and I'm sure people listening will have heard it, is that lack of psychological safety, because that hierarchy has been inferred because of a product owner. that may feel that they're hierarchically above people. But something we can do as like coaches and a Scrum Master is pay attention to that, because somebody not pushing back and somebody not asking a question, sometimes it is that maybe they don't know how to ask the question or they're not sure they should, but it also could be that they don't feel they can. And this is where psychological safety comes into play, and that is something that we can help with, and it is something that we can work with teams about, whether it be on smaller one-to-one situations or whether it can be looking at ways of working, getting the team to see each other as equals to start with. But yeah, in situations like that where I've seen the team not speak up, it's been more around that they don't feel psychologically safe to challenge, because hierarchy infers that the product owner is right and they're not. And we can unpick
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Let's pay attention to that. Is the team feeling safe enough to push back when the PO is dictating the technical details? But that was a bad example. And of course, because today's Friday, we're getting to the end of the week. We want a great example to get us in a happy mood for the weekend. So share that with us, Stacey. What's the best product owner you've ever worked with? Describe them for us.
Oh, the product owner that I've worked with, they're absolutely like amazing. People first, and very often when I say people first, they're like, "Oh, right, so they don't do any work." No, they were really all encompassing in terms of it didn't matter what role that you were, even if you weren't really in the team, they'd have a little chat with you in the kitchen and say, "Oh, we're coming up with this solution, or we're looking at this piece of work," and it could be somebody who was just in there for a day or so. They will take their opinions, and what people say mattered to them. It wasn't just oh, we need to ask the team, tick that box. We've checked with the team, tick that box. They actually really cared about the team's input. By no stretch of the imagination would they ever delve into or profess to know anything technical. And they would make that clear, and they would leave that space open for the team. And another good thing is they always had the team's back, always. If a team wanted to break something down XYZ, they go, "Okay, great, let's give it a go. Let's reflect in the retrospective." They'd reflect. If it didn't work, it wouldn't be, "Well, you decided we were doing it that way, so that's your problem." It would be, "Okay, right, how do we learn from this?" And they had that empiricism. They had that reflection of how do we take what we're doing and move it forward. They would ask if more detail was needed on tickets. They would ask if less detail was needed on tickets. They even were open to the idea of, do we estimate? Do we not estimate? They were very all-encompassing in terms of the journey of Agile delivery, which was a great thing to work with. It made working very fun. And they were always up for experimentation. Like I say, do we work this story X way? Do we work it Y way? What do we go? What will work? What do we need to measure to make sure we're delivering the value we anticipate? So they still had, it wasn't just wishy-washy and fluffy. They still had, okay, what outcome do we want? Not output. They were looking at outcome. What change do we want to see for the users? And how do we know we've hit that change? And how do we as a group work together to make sure that we've broken it down in a way that makes sense and still delivers that value? Yeah.
That was
very, very good.
a great list, inventory of things to look for in product owners. Now, this particular product owner had all of those, but do look for those. And even some of those can be quite productive for the team. I'm thinking, for example, asking input from the team about the story. Like we do refinement, and the product owner is maybe part of it and brings their thoughts into it and tries to put all of that into the story. But at any point, the team might say, "Hey, but we still need input on this. So regarding this, what do you think, product owner? What should happen for the user?" So that whatever the reason is, and from that perspective, I think that if we think about what kind of feedback the product owner should seek, and you talked about this product owner being very open to feedback from even people outside the team, which makes perfect sense. There's one type of feedback that I think is really critical, and you mentioned it, which is, does this work? And how do we know if this works, right? You talked about outcomes, right? And that's a question that I very rarely see product owners asking. I see product owners very much worried about being kind of feature list managers, right? Like more features is better kind of mentality. But this question of, are we getting the impact that we wanted? Are we getting the outcome that we wanted? And how do we measure it? I think that's an incredibly important question for product owners to be asking.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could deliver 5, mediocre features that bring a little bit of revenue, or you can deliver one that is like absolutely amazing. But how do you know if you're not questioning and you're not reflecting? You know, there's so many metrics that sit within agility that are gameable. Gameable? I don't even know if that's a word. They are gamed, and they are arbitrary. They are vanity metrics. And as a product owner, they need to be able to understand which are the ones that matter. And if people are focused on the wrong ones, they need to have the courage to challenge and ask them why. So say they want 7 features. Why do you want 7 features? Well, we want to make money. Okay, well, your goal's to make money. So let's have a little look into that and let's do some root cause about how we can make that much more synced and reduce waste and get it out there as soon as it can be there.
Yeah, and this would be a good time to refer to the Tuesday episode and the goal and theory of constraints, because some of those questions come from the 5 focusing steps of the theory of constraints. Stacey, it's been a pleasure to have you here this week. Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end. But before we do go, where can people find you and find out more about the work that you're doing?
So you can find me on LinkedIn under Stacey Taurah. I'm there. I'm currently working with an amazing consultancy called The Nimble Approach. So I've got a blog on one of their sites as well. But yeah, hit me up, send me some messages, and I'll be here.
Absolutely. And why not? Just send some follow-up questions on LinkedIn and get a conversation going. Stacey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for having me.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.